Hello, beloved. Hello, hello. So much to share, so many different things that have been coming in fast and furious for so many days. So this is going to be a really fun transmission. We're going to be a little bit all over the place in the best possible way. It is early evening on August 14th as I record this in 2022, my time, just so that you have that information. Sometimes people like that information. So first I want to just remind people August 4th, roughly, give or take, depending on where you are and all of that, was when the kind of quote unquote 7D energies began coming into the physical, into matter on the planet for the first time in, let's just call it a really long time. Again, we're still using time as a line, but time is a sphere, so really it doesn't matter. Okay, so I just want you to be aware of that, and I want to circle back around to talk about integrating those 7D energies into your biology. But I have shared a couple of kind of quick posts for that on social media, and I want to make sure that you have been keeping up with the transmissions because particularly the last few are really, really powerful and supportive in huge ways, in evergreen ways, as well as to our current times and energies. So please, 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 if you are behind on these, it's totally fine. You can keep listening today and go back. Okay? Please, please, please. Okay. So on August 8th was very interesting, weird energies. A lot of crankiness for a lot of people, but also some really beautiful high energies. So like overall, the energies felt very kind of big and high to me with these sort of like little grinchy, little grabby, cranky energy hooks that were pulling a lot of people down in various different ways. I was hearing and sort of also sensing. I took off for the afternoon to stay in the high ones and went on a little adventure out towards salt waters. Of course, I'm usually dealing with the fresh waters here at the lake, but went out to salt waters and had great adventures. It was really cool. And as I was coming home, I was taking different roads than I normally wouldn't, well, not normally because I went to a place I'd never been, but I didn't follow the map, the app. And because I don't really know my way around here, in a broader sense geographically, because I've only lived here for, I don't know, 19 months, 20 months. How long has it been? I don't know. But I don't like know all the roads like the back of my hand. So, but I wanted to be on as rural as possible roads is what I was really wanting. And I usually want that. So I set the app up to tell me, and then I just sort of ignored it, and I went some different ways as I was guided, and which worked out great for anybody curious about that. And at one point, I was driving on this little tiny rural road, and like semi-rural, but it felt rural. Little country road. I'm driving along, and all of a sudden, ahead of me, I see this huge bird, like the biggest bird. I mean, so big. I was like, what is this huge bird? It was like even bigger than a bald eagle. And I get to see a lot of bald eagles where I live. So it's a point of reference that is pretty fresh for me. And then I sort of instantly realized that it was a vulture, a kind of vulture. I still don't know exactly which kind, if it was a turkey vulture or something else, but a big giant vulture. And I was like, whoa, that's cool because vulture medicine is amazing. And it flew like right in front of me, not like down right in front of my car, like a deer running across the road kind of thing, but like right in front of me, up a little bit above my kind of straight ahead view, but like right in my eye line, like right in front of me into this stand of trees, on the other side of the road, on the right side of the road. Now remember, I'm driving, so I'm like moving along and this is happening. And I look to the stand of trees to try to see more of this bird, and it comes to perch in this stand of trees. And there's like at least 12, maybe more. I'm going too fast to really know for sure. Vultures in this tree, like huge. They're all just sitting there, just like, I mean, and they're huge. I can't even tell you how big they are. They're amazing, right? So it's so cool. And I was like, holy Hannah. And then just this huge wave of energy comes in as I observe them. They like send this huge wave of energy into me. And I realize on my left, what I'm coming up to on my left across the street from them is this place. I've actually been by this once before, and in my mind I called it the tree graveyard. And it's this place that like itself has been clear cut, but also like other clearings from, I think must be from that area, like have been dumped there. And so it's not like clear cut in a like, oh, we're going to harvest the timber kind of way. Like there's just dead trees, hacked, murdered trees are just like lying about willy-nilly in piles. And it's just, they're just like basically decomposing and they're just there. And so it's this huge, basically it feels like a giant tree murder site to me. And yes, I'm aware that I use some paper products from time to time that come from trees and that I benefit from lumber that comes from trees. I understand that. And this felt like murder, particularly because it seemed senseless. Like there didn't seem to be any reason, if you will, for it. And so this just kind of tree murder site, which was very intense to be aware of. And what I received from the vultures was, there is always powerful energy, able, willing, and organized around the principle of coming and cleaning up that which has been killed and murdered and destroyed, whether that's been done by you or by someone else. It doesn't matter. That all things can be turned into something new, that all things can become food and energy for other beings, and that even that which has been stolen can be reclaimed. There was a feeling of the vultures were doing this work of reclaiming, and it felt sacred. It felt absolutely sacred, and I'm confident I'm not giving it any justice at all. But I just needed to share that story. As it happened, I knew I needed to share it with you, but I just haven't been in a place to do a transmission. So I wanted you to have that. And so, okay. Where do we want to go next with this? Okay. So I think for just a moment, I'll stick with the fact that some of you will have picked up on, oh, that was on August 8th, of course, Lionsgate, blah, 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 right? And so we have a lot of chatter, and a lot of very well-meaning focused on the idea of this sort of Lionsgate portal. And I'm very kind of agnostic about all of that personally. But for those who don't know what I'm talking about, it's this idea of this so-called Lion's Gate, this kind of portal time, this kind of opening of a gate cosmically for energies that people say is July 26th through August 11th or 12th. And they say that it is related to the alignments of Sirius, the star, with our sun and the earth. And my understanding is that actually this year, the kind of closest alignment of Sirius with the sun and with earth was earlier in the summer. But historically, the understanding is that this is kind of the times that it's been acknowledged. There are also people who speak about that it's, oh no, it's actually September 3rd, right? There's a lot of different ideas about this idea of Lionsgate and whether or not it's important. So what I wanted to say about it, because I get asked this periodically, so I'm just addressing it here since this is a current topic for a lot of people. What I want to say about it is that if it feels like a great portal time to you and you're feeling like you're accessing lots of really great energies and it feels really cool and fun, then it is. Like, remember 2022 in particular is choose your own adventure year, right? But of course, the whole lifetime is choose your own adventure. So if you like that and it feels good to you and you enjoy the energies of it, then awesome. Like, do that. Who cares what anybody else says? Like, who cares what I say? Completely irrelevant. What's your experience? What's in your heart? What feels right to you? And if you feel really aligned and activated and inspired and your heart opens up around the kind of organizing of certain numbers on the calendar that we currently use in human artificial time, then great. And a lot of people do. So it makes those days more and more kind of have their own sort of power because there's so much more kind of energy and attention to it. And that's all fine. It's all great. I do feel very strong connection to Sirius in my human form, the star, and regularly feel like kind of deep communication to it. I'll actually say that historically, my most sort of what do I say, active times to hear from Sirius tend to be in the very late fall, winter, kind of moving towards a winter solstice, winter up here in the northern hemisphere. So there you go, right? Just, it's all about your own thing. It's all about your own thing. So we have been moving through, but we have been and are still in a passageway. And this passageway, I feel, opened on the 4th, which is when the 7D energies started coming in. I'll come back to the 7D energies again. I know I already said that, but we're in this kind of passageway, and it's designed to support the integrations of the 7D energies a little bit further. It's going to take a long time for those to integrate in most of the material world, but kind of to get like a good rooting in, right? Like think of seedlings, like when you're growing plants and you plant seedlings and you get like those first few leaves, like that's kind of what's going on. Is those first few 7D leaves are coming up. And I feel this passageway goes through August 22nd, give or take a little bit. And that it is also a passage to support the work that I shared in the earlier transmissions, relating, let's just sum it up. There's many different languages we can use for this, but relating to allowing in the experience of allowing and receiving unconditional love for the forsaken within ourselves. Okay. And this message from the vultures is related to that work, quote unquote, of the issue of the forsaken, to understand that the forsaken within you, the way in which you are forsaken, the way in which you are unredeemable, the way in which you are both the murdered tree and the tree murderer. All of these things can be reclaimed if you allow it. All of these things can be loved unconditionally if you allow it. So we're having a phase of both coming more and more into connection and more into individuation. And we want to allow both of those things to happen as much as feels good to you. And if you're able to develop the capacity to kind of allow both to occur simultaneously, that's ideal, I feel, in terms of quality of experience, at least from my perspective. From your perspective of quality of experience, something very different might be right. And again, you just always want to go with what works for you. But allowing kind of connecting more and more into your knowingness and more into just like the being in the knowingness, which is the trick about the word knowingness, is it's almost like, oh yeah, then I have mental models, and mental models in a weird way distance us from like just kind of the beingness of the knowingness. So abstract, you can see words just get really tricky. So just really be aware of that tree frog mind that I talk about, that tree frog mind where the brain gets really grippy and is like, I got to rip and tear apart every single thing that's going on right now, and I've got to fucking understand every little aspect of it, or like terrible things are going to happen and I'm screwing this up and I'm not doing it right and blah, 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 right? And the brain is like on overdrive. And remember that I always say your brain is like a toddler. Your brain is like a 3-year-old. And you have to give it the right things to play with, or it will destroy your kitchen in like 5 seconds flat, your kitchen being your life. So you want to be like, oh, little brain, I love you. You're so wonderful and you do so many cool things with me. But here, I want you to play with this Tupperware and these wooden spoons. And here's a couple of pots you can bang on and like have a good time. But give me that knife set, because we're not playing with the knife set. Really important, increasingly important as we go along. And the more the higher dimensional energies come into the material plane, the more important this is, wherever you're at in your own kind of journey. So yes, it's very, very, very important. Okay. So we're working on getting rid again, we've been talking about this for a while, but there's like levels, there's like layers to this. You know, I talk sometimes about the idea of like scraping off the barnacles, and then the idea sometimes of like scraping off the label on the jar because you're inside the jar and you can't see what's in the jar because you can't see what's on the label because you're on the inside of the jar, scraping away the label off the jar, scraping off, like cleaning off the windows so you can see more clearly, and then like removing the window entirely. This is really, for me, this is what it's all about. And as we go, one of the big strands that's alive right now, layers that's alive right now for scraping, that has been alive anyway, in these past couple of weeks, is this martyr consciousness and poverty consciousness, and the way they go together. There's a very, they go together, and it sounds really obvious, right? But this whole kind of like the starving artist syndrome is a really big one that's present for me, at least, in a variety of different ways, in terms of people that I'm working with and that I'm seeing this in them, but also just kind of sensing it in the world, and even sensing it occasionally popping up into myself a little bit. This idea of, that the artist has to be sort of the suffering, martyred for humanity, freezing to death in the writing the poetry in the cold garret, with those little fingerless gloves on, right? Like this is such a prevalent image in our culture for, decades and decades and decades. And as if art and beauty don't have immeasurable value. And so I just want you to really pay attention to where's that showing up in your life. And you don't have to be an artist for this to be showing up in your life, all right? But where is it showing up around the things that are in your heart to create shouldn't be compensated with money, okay? And you should just give them all away for free. And you can give whatever you want away for free, but if you're doing that to the detriment of your ability to take care of yourself physically, as we are currently still living in a society that requires money in order to exchange for a variety of different things that we require for our quality of life, then, and nobody's asking you to do that. You're choosing to do that yourself. So cut it out. And you're not actually helping to bring in kind of the sort of the new world or the new age or the new phase that you may say that you want when you hold on to that. You're actually slowing things down for everybody. So cut it out. Because if you're listening to this, you have the capacity to cut it out. I'm confident that you do. And you have a huge energy to contribute to what's going on. And you're interested in that in some way, shape, or form. And there's many different levels that you can be interested in that. But just cut it out. I'm thinking of the old Bob Newhart clip where some of you will be like, what? Because, I'm older than you. But Bob Newhart, I'm actually even too young for Bob Newhart directly, but the clip is great. He's playing as a comedian, older comedian. He's playing a psychiatrist or a psychologist, a therapist of some sort. Person comes in to sit down for a session. He says, okay, it's, I forget, like $5 for 5 minutes or something like that. And the person's like, what? 5 minutes? He's like, yeah. And so he gets started. The person tells him, oh, blah, blah, doing this thing, blah, blah. And he's like, okay, so I'm going to kind of give you here's the big reveal. Here's the big thing that I want you to do. Stop it. And this just goes on. And it's hilarious. So it's just really good. It's really good. So related to all of these energy shifts that are occurring is the importance of expanding your tolerance for ambiguity. And this goes right to that tree frog mind issue, right? The brain doesn't like ambiguity. It really doesn't like ambiguity. And it will do all sorts of shenanigans to avoid ambiguity. Like it will just create crazy stories in order to avoid ambiguity. And sometimes those are not helpful. And so this kind of capacity to tolerate ambiguity is really important. So think about, where are you obsessing over controlling outcomes, right? And can you perceive the outcomes you're trying to control as weights that you're holding on to that may feel like, oh, They're on my shoulders, the weight of the world on my shoulders, this ballast around my neck, the monkey on my back, the anchor around my neck, whatever. Like they're attached to you, like they're part of you. But they're actually just weights that you're walking around carrying. And can you just drop them? Just boop, off you go. I'm not holding that anymore. And feel how you just whoop, lighten right up. Now the weight is about the control, not the thing itself. I don't care whether or not you drop whatever the thing is that you're interested in, that you're trying to control, or the related pieces of that. It's not about that. It's about the control, the impulse, the desire, the need, the compulsion, whatever level you're at on that, to control it and to understand it, right? That control. And if you can just take those weights, like literally I want you to, if you can stand or even if you're sitting, like put your hands out as if you're holding two huge like bags that are filled with stuff. So they can, you have to have your arms are strong and they're like holding these big giant weights, and the bags are too big. So they have to be further out from your body. So your arms are out and you're holding them and you're holding them and you're holding them and you're holding them and your hands are gripped tightly around this to hold it so it doesn't fall, and you're holding it and you're holding it and you're holding it. And I want you to just let go. Just open your hands and just whew, let go. You don't have to throw them away or anything. Just let go and feel how you just whoop, go up. This relates a lot to decision making at this time. So a lot of people are like flim-flamming around, second guessing, triple guessing, quadruple guessing decisions, not being able to make decisions, not being able to move forward, making a decision, but then second guessing it after you've made it, right? And so there's this sort of like, oh, I made a decision. Oh, I'm going to pull it back. Oh, I made a decision. Oh, I'm going to pull it back. Oh, I'm going to make a decision, but I'm not going to act on it. Oh, I'm not going to make a decision. Oh, I'm going to, right? Make the decision. No more fiddle fucking around. Whatever the decision is that's in your heart, go with it. Don't let your brain talk yourself out of it. Not if it feels aligned. And I can hear you like, but I don't know if it's aligned. I can't tell. That's just your brain. All right. All right. Now we're going to talk about the 7D energies. Yes. So as we talk about the 7D energies, I want you to be thinking about or feeling into how can I be increasing the amount of time and exposure I'm giving myself to opportunities to fall in love. And I'm not talking about romantic falling in love. That's fine if that's part of it for you, but it doesn't matter. I'm talking about like that feeling of like you look at this flower, at this plant, at this cat, at this dog, at this lake, at this funny little meme, at this story from one of your pals, at a movie, at a book. It doesn't matter. Where you're just like fall madly in love with it. Where you're just like, oh my God, I am like completely in love with this right now. How many times a day are you falling in love? And if your answer isn't several, more, get more. If your answer is, I don't even know what that feels like, get on it. This is your most important task. This is more important than anything I can think of at this current time. Okay? Go fall in love somewhere, right? Go look in the mirror, see if you can fall in love with yourself. Ooh, I know, that's hardcore. For some. Okay, so the 7D energies, they come in and they are coming into the physical, into your biology and into other physical material things. And the imagery that I think is best for this is very, 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 very similar, by the way, to the imagery in the Founder Codes materials around how the original self begins to integrate into the biology. So if you've already gotten into the Founder Code materials, then you'll recognize this a little bit, although I have a kind of a new reference point for it, but it's really pretty much the same kind of thing, although this is different. The 7D energies and the original self energies from the white hole are different. Okay, but just the visual is very similar, and the feeling can be very similar. The sensation can be very similar in the same way as like, you know, when I do a squat or I do a push up or or I'm running, like the feeling in my body is similar, right? And if you haven't gotten into the Founder Codes, like what's the hold up? I've made them set up as a pay what you choose because I want everybody doing this. It's so important. Please do it. Please do it. Please do it. Please do it. People who do it send me notes and they're like, oh my God, game changer. And these are really advanced people who are sending me these like game changer, right? And then share it. Go share it. Okay. Nobody needs to let money be a barrier, right? There's a, monetary value exchange, money energy suggested number, and there's a pay what you want, do what you want. And inside the materials, we're setting up a little, like if you want to come back later and add some money in later when you're able, that's also fine. Don't let the idea of, oh, I'm going to be devaluing and that's going to be harmful in some way stop you. See earlier comment about martyr, self-sacrifice, blah, blah, right? Okay. Trust that I know what I'm doing, making this available at this time with the pay what you choose. Okay. So the 70 energies integrate in like if you can think about the movie Avatar and the way in which their tails connect into like the tails of the little flying beings that they connect with. I don't remember what they're called, but they're sort of like a combination of like a horse and a dragon or something. I don't know. But there's like all these little lit up kind of organic tendrils that are little tiny little like little like filaments or tendrils that are lit up, and they come together and they kind of merge into each other and they bond, right? And then through that, the connection between kind of rider and flying animal occurs in terms of in the movie. And if you haven't seen that or you can't visualize what I'm talking about, it's these little tendrils that are coming in, and they're these very fine, and there's like lots of them, but there's just a few coming in first, little tendrils coming in, and they're very light, and they are like lit up as well, and they're alive, and they're coming into you, and they are connecting with, they are finding kind of their counterpart within your biology. And this is an unknown, undiscovered level of your physical biology that because it is just so micro, like it just hasn't been seen yet or observed yet in human science. And they're interacting and they're fusing. They're like sort of connecting with each other and then fusing. And then more and more of these are coming in. But they're not going to come in fast because they don't want to overwhelm your biology. It's a very planful, intentional process. Very well considered process, a very mature process, incredibly joyful. These are like master artisan level energies, right? Think about like, this is like Leonardo da Vinci, Picasso, Rembrandt level energies that are coming in. They're that brilliant, that genius level, that capable. They're not just willy-nilly flying in. That's how a lot of these energies have felt in terms of these big cosmic energies coming in. And that's not actually true, but that's been how a lot of those felt. This is very different. This is subtle. This is nuanced, and it's happening whether you're aware of it or not. So it's okay if you're like, I don't feel anything. I don't know anything about it. Like, whatever. That's totally fine. You don't have to. You can just be like, that's cool. I love this. And you can spend some time being like, hey, I intend and I request and command that this integration of these highest dimensional energies currently available to me come into and integrate into me now for my highest good and at the most advisable, beneficial pace and rate for my being. That's all you have to do if you want to essentially kind of accelerate it, right? If you're like, I don't feel any of it, but I want to accelerate it because I want more of that, right? Just do that. And here's some more visuals on it, okay? So the filaments are coming in, they're kind of, they're integrating in, and then there's this experience of, how do I think about this? How do I describe this words? So like, as if within your kind of body container, there are these teeny tiny, many of these teeny tiny little like vertical sort of white tubes, almost like little white pipes that are running up and down your being. and the 7D energies are kind of coming into them, both like into the walls of them, but also in through them, and they're clearing out those little tiny tubes, those little tiny pipings that are running up and down you, and they're cleaning and clearing out. And just let them. Be grateful for it. When you're just having a moment, or you're lying in bed in the morning, or you're lying in bed to go to sleep, visualize these tiny little, like myriad of these tiny little white tubes. And they're white, but like they have a kind of opalescence to them, and they're not quite transparent or even translucent, but they're not like fully opaque either. Words. So anyway, but there's this beautiful like white energy to them, and then there's this kind of brilliant sort of pink energy that is related to the red pink energy that is flesh energy, inside flesh, right? Like underneath the skin. You know, if you kind of are looking at, you know, if you cut yourself open and you're looking at that flesh before blood covers it up, it's got this like rich sort of raspberry pink, right? That's also somehow part of this white, even though the white is the white. That's really unhelpful, isn't it? But just trust me. I really wish I was a really great artist some days, because it's like I can just see it, and if I could just describe it correctly, then, you know, it would be so great for you. But hopefully this is enough. And so it's very in your anatomy. Like I want you to really feel it, like in your body, and feel that 7D energy is just like zoop, really light, just like zoop, going in. They're just sliding in, slipping in, sliding and slipping in. And they're just like, la la la, here we are. You know, and just sort of just doing these beautiful little like, la 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 la, this very light kind of trilling kind of energy almost, right? Like, kind of coming through, and maybe causing like fun little like ripples in your body as they go. And so, really beautiful. Just let it happen. And it's okay if you don't have awareness of it. It's okay. You don't have to. Just go find things to fall in love with. Okay? And you can, I mean, once you build up the muscle for falling in love, like you're just falling in love willy-nilly. Like I'm just walking around, you know, on a good day, and I'm just like falling in love all the time. It's crazy how much I'm falling in love on a good day. Those are like my best days. And, you know, then if I have a day where I've like gotten to late afternoon and I haven't had the experience of falling in love, I'm like, I feel bereft. Where's my falling in love? It's so fun. Like, why would you want to have any other kind of life experience? So this is all about tending your radiance, right? Tending to your radiance, and what is the organizing principle for your life design? Understanding whatever you want that to be. So as these integrations are happening in your biology, there's going to be a desire, allow as much change as you can. And understanding that it's not about, oh, I'm trying to force myself to change more. It's not about that. Just like allow, just be like, as much as is advisable at this time, as much as is delightful at this time. And then, you know, later is another time, right? Allow that change. It wants you to, you're probably having various different ways in which you feel a desire to get more elastic and more stretchy. Like your physical body may want to get like, I want to get more elastic and more stretchy. And like, what are those things? And if you haven't been feeling that, like feel it right now. Like as you're listening to me, stand up and kind of like move your right arm way up and out and your left arm way down, so that there's like, you're trying to push your fingers from both hands apart from each other. Like, ooh, more stretchy. Let me do the other side. Ooh, let me move it around. Let me go all the way out to the sides, you know, more stretchy, more elastic. Now, all of this then pertains out into what's going on in your external circumstances in your life. Change is happening. And yes, we have the platitudes of the only thing that doesn't change is change itself. And these are crazy times and la, 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 la. But there's specific big changes happening now, lots of them. And it's going to be very different for everybody. So whatever it is for you, please know and hear this. And this may make sense already from like what's been happening for you in the last few days, or it may make sense going ahead in the next few weeks. But when big changes show up and just kind of like shove themselves into your face kind of aggressively, because that's kind of what it's like right now, the more you fight them or resist them, the more difficult your experience is going to be. These are not changes, as crazy as they might seem to you, that are coming to fuck with you. These are changes that are coming to free you, even if they don't feel like it at the time, right? Like that kind of, that classic, oh, the person broke up with me and broke my heart, and I thought I would never survive, but then later it's like the best thing that ever happened to me. The job I got fired from and I thought my life was ruined, and then later it's the best thing that ever happened to me, right? So now I'm not saying that the changes that are coming have to be disastrous feeling like that. I'm just giving you kind of that guidance if they do, if you create a kind of, if they have a story around them that feel that way. The changes may be like incredible, like amazing, like holy wow, that's incredible, that's so cool. And they also may be very short-lived is another thing, and that's fine, like whatever they are. They may be like super physical, quick changes that happen and then it's over and it's done. And these may be very related to your body. They may be very related to your home, like where you live, what's going on in your home environment, in your physical body. There's a huge, 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 huge attention in these energies to your body, which is not a coincidence because, hello, we're integrating brand new 7D energies into our bodies. Like, whoa, that's going to require some additional attention and devotion. And what is that for you? What is that attention and devotion for you? And just listening in, allowing and supporting that, finding the different ways that whatever that wants to be for you. All right. Okay. So looking ahead, so this passageway that we're in, which is a really nice passageway. I mean, it's been crazy too, right? But it's just, if you have a sense of waiting or limbo or stasis or like, okay, this isn't just ambiguity, Melanie. This is like, I don't know what the hell's going on, or like maybe more like a feeling like you're kind of flickering between timelines and like you can't quite hold one, right? I think that's a kind of a pretty big one right now for certain people, for certain beings, is that kind of like, oh, I'm in this timeline. Whoop, no, I'm not in that timeline. Oh, I'm in this other timeline. Where it's sort of like unsettled in some way. And so that's a very uncomfortable place to be. Understand that. We come out of this passageway on August 22nd. And if things have been great during this time, that's awesome. Like, that's perfect. That's great. There's there's nothing about like, I've got to do certain things before August 22nd or blah, blah, right? I just want you to understand the rhythms that are happening so that you have, the awareness can be useful. The awareness can be useful. So then we come out August 22nd or thereabouts, right? I mean, everybody's a little bit different, but that's just what I keep hearing and feeling. So kind of give or take maybe 12 to 24 hours on both sides of that. And I don't have any awareness. This may be related to astrological things, but I'm completely out of touch with what's going on the planetary astrology right now. So I have no way to kind of superimpose that data, if you will, on top of this for you, if that's your area. And if you're aware of astrology that's related to any of these things that I'm talking about, please comment, wherever, this gets posted, for the benefit of others as well as for myself. But we come out of this and then we are, and I'm kind of sorry to give you this news. Some of you are going to be like, yeah, but some of you are going to be like, no, but then we are like batshit crazy until at least the third, maybe fourth week of November. Like September, October, November is insane, like completely crazed energies on so many levels. And remember, it's choose your own adventure. Choose your own adventure. So you can ride whatever wave you want. you can use, if you're feeling a little unprepared and that's freaking you out a little bit, use this time of this, like, what is it, basically a little, like a week, a little more than a week before we kind of come out of this passageway. There's a kind of a quietness in this energy in this coming week that I think is very, very supportive, very intentionally nurturing to us around a kind of preparing. And within myself, it has felt, and so we can just sort of have that experience of like, oh, that's so nice. Let me just kind of hang in that and sort of rest in that. And it's kind of like a little bit of a vacation, you know? But also there may be the experience of like a coiling in of energy, like that sort of like pulling in of the, like the slingshot, pulling back of the slingshot before it's going to go, boom, you know? And so you may, as we go through the week and get closer to the 22nd, feel more and more of that kind of building inner tension. And it's nothing other than you're just kind of gearing up, right? That it's just a kind of like it might feel like a coalescing of energy. It might feel a little bit like that getting ready to kind of dive off the big giant diving board, and you get that like kind of like you bend down and kind of get down into like a little squat before you like boom up and off, you know, kind of thing. And so, yeah, so you may be feeling that now, or you may be feeling that later in the week as we get closer to the 22nd, or you may not feel it at all. But in case that's something that you're experiencing, I just want you to know, like, that's cool. You may be misinterpreting that feeling as anxiety, or, you know, inner tension. And of course you may be having anxiety. I'm not dismissing that at all. I'm just saying that it's very easy for the human mind to interpret the nervous system's responses to some of these energies with the story of mental health anxiety. If that's useful to you, and sometimes it is, great. Work with that. Use that mental model and like play from that space. But if it's not useful for you, and it's more useful for you to be like, oh, I'm not actually anxious. That's just my body. It's just like, whoop, you know, let me support my nervous system. Let me, again, continue to increase my mastery, my capacity, my skillfulness with my neurobiology, because that's never going away. As long as you are alive and a human, no matter how far down the evolutionary pathway towards Homo lumis you go, the Homo lumens piece, it doesn't, like, the human biology doesn't go away. We're bringing it all here. People talk about ascension. It's not ascension. It's bringing it all here. I haven't yet been able to come up with a word for it other than like evolution, but even that is like, seems specific, you know? Yeah, I don't know. We need a good word for it, because it's not transcendence, it's not ascension, and it's not imminence, it's not descendant, it's not, you know, it's none of those words that people are using. And those words are then all set up as sort of polarities, and it's not. It's a collapsing of both. It's like we're bringing both ends of the spectrum, so to speak, together and bringing it into one here, through and in the body. Okay, I kind of went on a little like side trail there and kind of lost myself a little bit. Okay, so yes, so going into fall, and I want to talk about fall for a minute. So I want to talk about autumn. So now I understand some of you are in the southern hemisphere, and so you're going into spring, and that has its own interesting energy. But for me personally, for most of my life, fall has been my favorite season. Now, that's actually changed in the last couple of years since the lake had me move up here, where like I no longer have a favorite season. And that's been a very interesting experience as well. But fall has always been my favorite season. I grew up in the Northeast, and so the kind of the fall and the changing of the colors, it's very dramatic, it's very beautiful. But I think there's also this sense of like there's kind of this in the DNA, the DNA holders before me, the ancestors, like in my blood is this idea of like, you know, there's harvest time in the fall, right? And which is really actually like, you know, throughout the summer, but this idea of like harvest time, this idea of also in more modern history that fall is when you go back to school. And so just in your own human experience, there's this sense for me at least of fall is like, aha, a whole new take, a whole new year. We get to start fresh. And starting fresh or having a whole next level has always been very exciting to me. So all of these energies are pertinent to what's opening up for us, what's coming. And, we know that there's significant, the change that is happening. How do I want to say this? The changes that are happening within you that are big and intense and are fun and are cool are also going to be reflected in outer circumstances as well. And so, things could be pretty bumpy potentially out in the world for a lot of people. And there just has never been a better time to find ways to just cloister yourself as much as you can on as many levels as you can. Really just like, can you bubble up more? Like by bubble up, I mean like kind of, get bubbled up, really. Yeah. Where you're just more and more not dialed in to all of the kind of the mainstream or societal narratives, whether they're mainstream or not, that leech away your energy. I'll leave it at that. Okay, but these 70 energies are really beautiful. They're really fun. And I did not think they were going to come in this fast. I was like, when it happened, when I felt it come in, I was like, what? Like, that's crazy. And like the 4th was August 4th when it happened. It kind of happened like very early morning for me, Pacific time. And I was like barely even awake. And then I was like, and it just shot me out of bed. And I had the craziest day. I was doing like recording materials and writing and having like incredible sessions with clients, and just, it was just an amazing day. It was super cool. So I just was loving how fast that has occurred in terms of kind of human calendar time. And I just feel like that's a really big testament to all of the incredible inner energetic work that so many humans are doing to just come more and more and more and more into their hearts and open that, and to allow all of that, whether they're using any of this language or not, it doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant. Remember that our mental models, including mine, don't matter at all. I just share what feels like it might be useful, and where it's useful, use it. Where it's not useful, don't. Right? That's it. And I share it because it's joyful for me to share it, because create and transmit, create and transmit, create and transmit, create and transmit. That's what makes me happy. Okay. There's something else that wants to be shared. Hang on, there's something else, but I can't, that's happened recently that wants to be shared. Something that happened. Oh, yes, right. Okay, right. That's what it is. All right. So here's a really fun, I'll leave you with this. Here's a really fun little kind of visualization that you can use around all of this kind of like supporting the body stuff, both the integrating of the 7D, but any other kind of body supports that you're feeling around, that you can kind of play with. So some of you astral travel now, and the idea of astral traveling may look and seem different things to different people, and that's fine. My own experience of so-called traveling is really more of a just instantaneous, like, I'm over there, I'm over here, I'm over there, like I'm wherever. It's this kind of immediate sort of like location shift, although my physical body stays here. And the experience of kind of bilocation, being there and here at the same time, that's been an interesting experience in recent years. Multi-location happens occasionally, and that can get really confusing really fast, but can also be really cool. And so traveling to me feels like I'm not really aware of or paying attention to the me-ness that is physically here. I'm wherever I'm going. But many people astral travel in different ways. So the other day, I don't know when, sorry. The other day, I was kind of given this suggestion to astral travel in a different way than I have done before. And what I was told was that this is actually how many people are taught to astral travel. So this may be familiar to some of you. So I was lying on the bed and I was told, just move yourself up out of your body to be like up kind of towards the ceiling and your body's down below. And I was like, okay. And then experience like a silver cord or a silver strand, connecting this kind of energy you, astral you, with your physical body, at the belly button. So from the physical belly button to kind of the energy belly button. So the me that was up was sort of like my energy body, I guess you would call it, right? The energy kind of like mirror, not mirror isn't exactly right, but like the energy body that's kind of generally in the same shape and size, as this body. So for me, normally when I travel, like that's, or when when I travel and I leave this body and I'm not like multi-locating or bilocating, I'm no longer kind of, I don't feel, like it's not the energy body that's traveling. It's like me-ness that's traveling. So this was actually a little new for me. I've had this experience a few times, but not that often. So, okay, so now I'm above my body and I'm connected by this silver strand, this silver cord, this energy silver cord. Okay, great. And then it was like, okay, now travel wherever you want in this energy form. I was like, And so I was like, okay, and just immediately started sort of zooming and flying out, and was sort of flying out over the lake, over towards the ocean, and then went across the ocean. This is the Pacific Ocean. Across the Pacific Ocean, was like, ooh, Hawaii. But then immediately was like, nope, not Hawaii. But then was like spent like some time, which was actually like the whole thing was really fast, but spent some time kind of slowed down, hanging around in the kind of open Pacific, where there's like nothing, no humans living, and was sort of hanging out there for, what was probably in human time, 30 seconds maybe, I don't know, but felt like a while. And then was like, okay, I'm out. Like, let's go. We're going out. We're going to go out and up off the planet, out. Okay, up off the planet, out we go, up through the atmosphere, out into space. Which way are we going? We're going out in the solar system, away from the sun. Okay, great. Out the solar system, out past the planets, out to the edge of the solar system, and kind of just, having this sort of like awareness of the planets, like, hi, 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 and like kind of visiting, like special affinity to Jupiter, special affinity to Uranus, special affinity to Neptune, special affinity to Pluto, like really have a lot of love for those beings. But it's like, keep going, we're going to keep going. And I have this kind of sense of questioning, beginning to question, like, well, where are we going? What's happening? What's the point of this? What are we doing? What's happening? Are we going to meet people? What's happening? And not people, but yeah. And what I'm hearing louder and louder, or more coherently, is we got to go out, further out. We got to go all the way out. And as we're moving out, further out of the solar system, out past through the galaxy, out to like another galaxy, out, is that I'm going out. That the idea is like, go out to the edge of the universe, and that as we're going out, we're going back in time. And so that was sort of interesting. I was like, why does traveling out, as I'm traveling, I'm kind of just like zooming out past stars and planets and galaxies and empty space, and then more stars and planets and galaxies, moving out towards the edge of the universe. Why is this also perceived as moving back in time? Because it wasn't like a temporal relocating. It wasn't like time hopping or something like that. It was just, no, as we go out, we're going back in time. I was like, why is that? And it was because it's from the reference point of the human. We're going out in time because we're in the human energy body, and the human on Earth sees what's happening at the edge of the universe as the beginning of the universe because of the speed of light. Oh, got it. Okay. So I'm like all in. We're zooming to the edge of the universe, which is to the beginning of time of this universe. And then we break out through this universe into, like, don't have words for where we are. And then keep going further back in time, in air quotes. And then boom, suddenly I stop. And I'm in this completely like kind of voidal space, and I'm just kind of hanging there. And then suddenly in front of me is this huge, sort of giant, sort of amoeba-like pulsing blob of just this beautiful shimmering gold something. And it's very big, huge. And I realized that, oh, this is how humans, when they travel to source, or whatever they call it, experience this. And I've since actually had the conversation with a couple of people describe this, and they're like, that's what it always feels like to me when I go to source. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And so, but I go to this, and it's like, come over to this big, giant, beautiful, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's just amazing. The experience is very blissful. It's very lovely. It feels just feels wonderful to be there in this way of being there, which is like still in this little human energy body. And I'm told, okay, now go get closer. And I'm like coming up really close to it. And so because I'm coming close to it, it's really big. And so even though it doesn't have sides per se, the sensation is like coming up to like a really tall wall, but I'm in the middle. So it's like really big down below and really big up above kind of thing. And it's like this giant kind of cliff, but it's not a cliff, of course. And I'm told, okay, now you can take big scoops of this gold substance, take as much as you want, and I'm taking big armfuls of it. Now send it in through that silver strand, send it back into your body for whatever purpose you want. And I was like, what? That's awesome. Like a whole new way to do this. So I was grabbing these big, huge scoops of this giant, amazing kind of gold stuff. And I was like, I'm so good. I love it. Just thinking about it. I'm seeing it and just shoving it into my body and like down in through my energy belly button where it would go boom. And then suddenly I was feeling the body on the bed receiving it. And it was like, whoa, and like moving through and lighting up all these different tendrils and all this stuff. And it was beautiful. And I had some specific to me things that I wanted it to be directed towards, but also was just generally just like, bring it in. And so then I was told, and share this with others so that they can do the same. So you may have just actually, as I've been describing it, just like had this little journey. And hopefully you weren't driving, because I think I told you at the beginning of this. I'm going to make a note in here that at the end of this, we do a little imagery thing so that you probably shouldn't be driving or like operating machinery or riding a bike. But hopefully you kind of had the experience as I was describing it yourself, because it doesn't have to be some big, long, drawn out ceremonial thing. It's like these things happen like that, right? Like it happens faster than it took me to tell you. But hopefully you got some of that, and it's just such a beautiful, fun experience, and I'm just so happy to be able to share it with you. All right. Yeah, we're not quite ready to really think too much about 2023 yet, but it's different. It's going to be different. And yeah, that's all I want to say about it. But I do, for the rest of the year, we have this sort of September, October, November, very intense. And I feel for some reason through like November 17th, maybe 22nd, 17th keeps coming up, 22nd, I don't know. So this kind of to the third week of November, say, and then things shift in some way. And December feels very powerful, but in a really beautiful, light way. And not light, like it feels beautiful in a like little tiny white Christmas tree lights kind of way, but supercharged. Like if those little tiny Christmas tree lights were like, platinum strength light. Words so inadequate. It's going to be incredible, I feel. And I think that we're going to have another incredible December solstice. The last two have just been beyond any I have experienced in my 54 years on this planet. And I think it's going to happen like that again, at least for me. And again, choose your own adventure. Everybody's different, and different days are going to have that kind of experience for you. I feel like those are going to be mine. So, okay. So the one other thing, there is one more thing to share. Okay. So because I posted about this earlier today, and so some of you have been sending me notes about this. I had this most beautiful experience today, energetically, such an incredible gift, with another incredible being in human form, um, collaborating energetically in some really beautiful ways. And a couple of things came out to share with others. So this feeling of I have come into a new stage of metamorphosis. So I talk a lot about different types of kind of metamorphosis in biology as beautiful examples. The dragonfly, if you followed me at all, you know, is my most favorite. Butterflies get used very often as well. And my human life and many of my cosmic lives have been absolutely defined by change, 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 go, 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 the new thing, the new thing, the new thing, the new thing, evolve, 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 evolve. Okay, great, transformation, die, rebirth, go, right? This cycle over and over and over and over again. And if we look at like a butterfly cycle of, you know, kind of like, I'm not going to get the names right, but I think it's like egg, larva, pupa, butterfly, right? We have this 4 stages of transformation that the butterfly goes through. And then of course death, right? And then sort of starts over again. This experience of a new phase in the metamorphosis cycle for me personally, and I feel this will be true for others as well, and may already be true for others. And like, I'm just kind of getting here now. Like, it's not about like, I'm always the first. That's not what I'm trying to say. But more will want to come into this space. And I don't feel this should be rushed. If this calls to you, but you don't feel like you're there yet, just know it's there whenever you're there, if that makes sense. And it's this phase of essentially kind of popping out of metamorphosis and being sort of like, okay, I'm done with metamorphosis. I don't need that anymore. I'm not, need isn't the right word. I'm bored with it. I'm kind of over it. And not in a like, oh, I've been slogging away. I want to break. I'm so tired of all this, you know, like that's a classic, right? We always have those phases when we're kind of moving through our own work where we're like, I don't want to do it anymore. This is different. This is just more of a like, it's a kind of an existential level of like, I'm tired of being a butterfly. I've been a butterfly long enough. And then sort of like shifting into an entirely different state. And it's kind of an observer state, but it's not a detached state. It's like, it's a deeper level of presence as a result. And by giving it words, I'm kind of distancing myself from that presence, because that's what mental models do, is they kind of pop you out of the thing so that you can look at it and describe it. But as soon as you're describing it and looking at it, it's like, it's the past. Like, it's not, yeah, words. See, words, right? Here we are again. But the example that came up was the idea of ferns. So ferns have evolved and then are in a kind of evolutionary sort of stasis where for gazillions of years, it's a highly scientific term because I don't actually know how long, but gazillions of years, ferns have not evolved further. They haven't needed to. They're like, we got to where we want to go. This is where we're hanging out. And they're just like, we're not interested in evolution right now. We're just being. That's kind of the vibe of this. And I don't know how else to describe it. It's very new for me to just kind of have any words for this, but it's just this kind of beingness, just like being, being, being. And for me, being like what I actually fully am, with the full removal of all of the ideas that I've been carrying along about who I am. like as if what I have been, I've been like playing a character, and not like there wasn't, like it wasn't authentic, but it's like it's no longer, it's layers. It's still layers. So I'm removing more and more layers, and I'm just in this state of what feels like I've removed all the layers, and I'm only interested in this like perfect little nugget in the middle. That's me. I'm just a perfect little nugget. Love the little nugget. Oh, that's so funny. Um, but it's just, yeah, that's all the words that I got for this. But this new phase of metamorphosis is very interesting, very interesting. And I do, the evolutionary journey is still very alive. It's just this phase that I'm in. It's like the road has been, okay, here's what I'm feeling, the imagery that I'm having. It's like I've been on this road that's been really twisty and turny and windy, and we've been like going up the mountain, and there's these big switchbacks so that we can get up the mountain, and it's like, we're going around and we're going around and we're doing all the things. And then suddenly I'm in this big meadow area, and it's super flat and easy and free, and the lane is straight, and I'm just moving along straight. And I don't know how long this phase is, and I don't care, because this is the phase that I want to be in, of just moving across the easy, straight meadow. Yeah. And for those who've known me for a longer time, this ties back to in late January, when Earth had closed all of her lower timelines, and my own sort of sense of my quote unquote mission was done. And it was like, okay, so now you're just going to be here for delight, and for what's joyful and what's the delight. But to actually shift into that has not been easy. It has been challenging. In very different ways than challenges in my life before that have presented themselves. It's been very inner challenging. It hasn't been about outer challenge or external circumstance challenge. It's just been very challenging. And I feel like today's work, today's energetic creation in collaboration with this brilliant, wonderful other human, helped me arrive in where I want and get to be, and have been sort of questing about, trying to understand or figure out or experience in a more settled way. Because I've had beautiful, joyful moments throughout. It's been lovely. Everything's been great, and like not great, because sometimes it's like, ugh, what, why am I still doing this? What's still happening? You know, which is a different level than like earlier in my life, when it's like, why am I still doing this? Like, who designed this? I don't like it. That kind of thing. It's just a different quality of experience, I guess. So I just share that so that wherever you're at, this might be something that's relevant for you. It might be useful, or for some of you who are kind of just interested in my own trajectory and my own story, the sort of little sort of memoir-y, autobiographical moments that bleed through in these transmissions. There's a little nugget for you. A little nugget about a little nugget. A little golden nugget. Which is not at all how I or others see my energy, but it's making me laugh. So there you go. And laughter's the thing. All right. So oh my God, I've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes. Good grief. This is a ridiculously long transmission. I don't know if that's going to be a problem for people. I wonder if I should chunk it out. All right. I'm just gonna roll with it, and you'll let me know if you would have rather that I chunked it out, or just let you kind of start and pause as you see fit and go through it. But yeah, now I know why my throat's starting to hurt. Oh my God, that's so funny. All right. I love you so much. I love you, and I thank you for your light in the world. Stay beautiful, babies.